This troubleshooting guide and video could become your most valuable tool when working on steering complaints. I'm Jack Taylor, and I troubleshoot trucks for a living just like you. There are problems in the field right now that we all know about, and they're costing your company and TRW a lot of money. That's why we made this video. The first problem is that the steering gear usually takes the blame for any steering complaint. When a driver pulls into a dealership with a steering complaint, the first thing most mechanics think of is the steering gear. The fact is, most steering problems have nothing to do with the steering gear. To help solve this problem, Ross Gear has developed a system to help you troubleshoot steering problems. The flowcharts on these cards will help you find and fix the cause of a steering complaint, instead of replacing parts until the truck seems to work again. It will save you and your customer money. The second problem is a misunderstanding of the warranty system. TRW warrants gears to our customer, the truck builder. The warranty covers all defects in material and workmanship. It does not cover abuse or poor maintenance. If you have any questions about the warranty your customer has with the truck builder, ask your field representative. Use this troubleshooting system. It's a good one. It will help you save your company money, and that could make it the most valuable tool in your toolbox.
When a driver comes to you with a complaint about a steering problem, what do? Bring the truck in and take the steering gear off? If that's your first reaction, you're wasting time and money, and you probably won't solve anything. The fact is, steering problems are hardly ever caused by steering gears. It's usually something else. So, to save yourself a headache and maybe a fight over your warranty, I suggest the following. First, you've got to identify the problem. We put the 10 most common ones on your diagnostic charts. So talk to your driver and try to narrow it down to one of these if you can. Don't forget, any 10 people describing the same problem will describe it in 10 different ways. So make sure you and your driver are talking about the same problem. For example, a driver complaining about hard steering might say, the truck won't turn, the steering locks up, the steering system shuts down, the steering wheel hangs up, he gets no assist, or the truck won't turn unless it's moving. All of these complaints refer to hard steering. The next step, once you've identified the problem, is to use the diagnostic chart that corresponds to your problem and ask all the questions that you find in the diamond shapes. You might also think of other questions that will help you understand exactly what's going wrong. Then verify the problem yourself. Walk around the truck, looking for anything that may be obvious. Then go for a ride with the driver to make sure the problem is still there and he or she has described it to you correctly. Try to simulate the conditions when the problem showed up. For example, was the vehicle fully loaded? How heavy was the load? You'd be surprised to find how many drivers complain about a situation that's really quite normal. For example, sometimes a noise is just routine and not a problem. And don't be afraid to take the wheel yourself. Finally, when you've identified the problem, start your diagnosis with the Chart Your Way to Easy Steering System from TRW Ross Gear Division. Chart Your Way is a step-by-step way to diagnose and solve common steering problems quickly and efficiently. With these 10 cards, your videos, and your service manual, you can get to the heart of the problem, make the right repairs, and get your driver back on the road. Now, let's take a look at the 10 problems we've identified as the most common. Hard steering. Reduced wheel cut. This makes the truck swing too wide when turning. Steering wheel kick. Binding, darting, and oversteer. Directional pull. Road wander or loose steering. Non-recovery. Shimmy. Noise. And finally, external leakage. Now let's see how the system works. Let's say your problem is hard steering. This chart will help you understand why it's happening. Now get out your hard steering chart so you can follow along. Start at the box marked Begin. There's a question right away. Is the condition present during cold start only? Remember, when you first identify the problem, you used this card to find out what questions to ask the driver. So you should know the answer. Let's say it's no. That leads us to another question. Is a condition sensitive to steering wheel speed? Let's say the answer is yes. That takes us to a third question. Is a condition more prevalent when steering fast? In other words, it happens more often when steering fast. Let's say when you ask the driver, he said yes. Now we've come to a series of square cause and test boxes. You'll go through each one in order until you find the one that solves your problem. Going in order will save time because we've put the most likely causes first. In this case, it's air in system. To find out if that's the problem, the chart says to perform test number 12. Then it gives you small boxes to check off if you saw foam, and if you then bled the gear. You'll find out how to do test 12 on the second tape in this series. If you turn the card over, you'll either see written instructions on how to perform the tests, or you'll be referred to your service manual. Some cause and test boxes tell you to record test data on the back of the information card. That's this card, and it's pretty self-explanatory once you know how to perform the test. Other cause and test boxes refer to a comment, such as comment A, comment B, and so on. These comments are listed on the back of the diagnostic card below the tests. Now let's take a look at a specific question on the hard steering chart. There's a word used that I want to define. The question is on the far left side of the card. Is the condition intermittent? Intermittent is a word that is often used incorrectly. It means that the problem happens sometimes, but not always. It doesn't mean that it happens when steering left and not when steering right. It doesn't mean that it occurs at some speeds, but not at all speeds. It means that it happens at random. A driver may tell you the problem is intermittent because he hasn't noticed the pattern. That's why it's important for you to take a test drive. In any event, if you run a test and everything checks out okay, go on to the next test. One word of caution. Sometimes a problem is caused by several things. So once you identify a likely cause through a test procedure and correct it, retest the vehicle to make sure the problem is really solved. If not, keep going. And keep in mind that very few of the complaints attributed to steering are caused by the steering gear itself. That's why it's absolutely essential that you keep away from the steering gear and concentrate on following the test procedures on your charts. Just for practice, let's follow the steps on a different card, the one called binding, darting, oversteer. Again, we start where it says begin. And we find the first question for the driver, is cyclic binding felt at the steering wheel? Let's say the answer is yes. So we move to another question. Does binding occur once per revolution? Let's say the driver says no, it's more often than that. We then see another question. Is there more than one U-joint? Our driver said no, so we find there's only one likely possibility, excessive U-joint angle. We also see that there's a comment to read, so if you turn the card over, you'll find more detailed information about the problem and a possible solution. That's really all there is to it. Just follow your charts, run your test, note your results, and go on from there. The real trick is to get good solid information on the problem before you start. So ask plenty of questions and don't skip that test drive. The next tape in this series will be on the 31 tests you'll find on your charts. So when you're ready, watch your next tape. You've got to admit that using these charts and running a few simple tests is a lot easier than blindly trying to fix symptoms. Using these methods, everybody wins. The truck gets back on the highway in the least amount of time and at the lowest possible cost to everybody involved.